No crossplay. Fallout 76. Sony says no, we don't want crossplay. We're not going to have it. Get it out of here. And you know what? Gamers across the world right now, including myself, pissed off because we want to play with our friends. Sony, come on. It's such a shitty situation to be in because crossplay is really great for gamers because we get to play with our friends from different systems because, well, we don't all own the same system. The fact that we know that crossplay is possible because it's well integrated in many other games, and the fact that Sony is being like, no, we don't want it, is, yeah, it's kind of a crappy time to be a gamer. And I think Fallout 76 would have been a really great game to have crossplay with because it's a, well, kind of an online survival game. So if you don't own the same console, no problem. You want to survive together in the post-apocalyptic Fallout world or whatever, no problem. Just hook up crossplay and you're going to be with your friends. But nope, no crossplay. Sony didn't want it with Fortnite, now they don't want it with Fallout 76, and it appears that they don't want it with any other mainstream title. They just have this resistance to it, and of course, there's a reason for it. Money! But that is not in the best interest of gamers now, is it? The real problem with this issue that many gamers are taking to heart is that crossplay is really good for gamers, because we get to play with our friends on many different consoles, because we all don't own the same consoles. So if you want to play Fallout or Fortnite or PUBG or whatever competitive game that has online connectivity, you can simply be matched up with different consoles. And that's a great thing because, well, it broadens our ability to play with our friends, family, and people we know. Not including crossplay, even though we know it's possible because it's integrated into so many other games, is a blanket omission that institution, this being Sony, doesn't want to look out for our best interests. They're more looking out for themselves because, well, money, business, and exclusivity are really important to Sony. What I mean by that is, they don't want any competition creeping their way into the confines of playability for a Sony product or a game that's on a Sony product that's being played with other systems because, well, they're not on the same side. It's the current state of this industry. You know, we gotta get our player bases up, we gotta get our sales, we gotta get our business in so we can grow as a company, and sometimes that means making sacrifices, and this is gonna be one of them. To counter those sacrifices, what traditionally game makers have been doing is putting out high-quality exclusive video games, right? First-party exclusive video games to supplement their income streams for their consoles. That being said, it's very hard to put out first-party games right now in exclusive video games because the market's becoming really homogenized, and this is where the problem lies. If you're not putting out first-party titles to get a nice revenue stream, then you're going to be competing with other consoles on the market and the PC as well. So Sony's view on this is to basically blockade your ability to interact with multiple consoles with a Sony product for the business sake, so that they don't help their competitors get an advantage over their system. And that's because Sony is in the lead right now in terms of the console market. They've sold about 2 times the amount of Xbox Ones that have been sold from Microsoft, so they're in no position that they need a helping hand because they're already winning the console war this generation. So why help their competitors by allowing them to interact with their products and their servers and their services by way of crossplay? That's their view. Of course, we all know that that is not a good view from a gaming standpoint because it restricts players and their ability to interact with their friends and their families and play games with a bigger audience than they could possibly have on one single system. And that's where the problem lies. Just because they're in the lead, Sony's like, you know what? F it. We're not going to help out anyone else because we're on our own island. Crossplay would be wonderful, but the sheer fact is that Sony player counts are much higher than Microsoft player counts because more players own PlayStation 4s and Xbox Ones. So they don't really need to grow their player bases by allowing crossplay because, well, they're already having higher player bases than Microsoft. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation in the eyes of a business to help your competitors in this fashion when you're already dominating the markets in terms of player counts, revenue, sales, pretty much everything. You can make a case for this being good for the business sake, but in terms of the overall market, not a good thing whatsoever. With enough consumer backlash though, we can turn the ship around if we keep crying out and rallying behind good practices for gamers such as allowing crossplay. We can definitely turn this ship around. We just have to put a lot of pressure on Sony to do this. And this started to show itself with Fortnite. You know, they did respond to our cries for allowing crossplay with Sony, and they basically said, well, think about it. That's a good first step, but we got to keep on the pressure to make sure that they actually, you know, put their money where their mouth is, basically. The real solution, though, in addition to us making our voices heard, is for developers to put the pressure on. You know, developers have a lot of leeway with companies out there, including console makers and publishers, to get their voices heard and demand services within their game that are good for gamers. In this case would be crossplay. So it's the hope that the game developers out there really push for these systems and not just kind of bend over Sony when they say basically, no, you're not going to put it in your game no matter what. The ironic part is that during the month of June, yes, I did my research, Sony was the only video game console stock that had a positive return. This does go to show that Sony is in such a good light right now, especially compared to Microsoft and Nintendo, that whatever their business trajectory is as a company, they want to stick to it. So if they're doing really good on the stock end, that means the decisions they've made leading up to that point are what they should stick to. And what they've been doing, especially since the release of the PlayStation 4, is limiting or restricting the amount of crossplay that's available on their system, especially to very popular titles out in the market. It's not a good thing for gamers, but in terms of the business sake, it's working, so I guess they'll stick to it. This entire thing is really strange because Sony is never in the news for being bad. It's usually EA, Activision, some sort of Destiny controversy, and that's about it. So suddenly, in the last couple months, we've heard about Sony just being so resistant to crossplay with Fortnite and now Fallout 76. It's so weird to have Sony in the bad light. So with the PlayStation 5 looming in the distance in a few years, gamers got to ask themselves the question, is this a company I want to continue to support amidst the bad practices of their business pertaining to gamers? You know, it's kind of extreme to say if that's going to actually be relevant or not, but still, the warning is out there. Sony needs to get back on board with gamers because they're doing great with their games. Their first-party titles, God of War, a lot of other great games coming from their system, but in terms of giving gamers the features they want, connecting gamers around the globe with other gamers of different systems, they're not doing a good job whatsoever. The best case scenario for our industry is to have cross-play between the popular games on the market and a focus on first-party exclusive video games. So there's still a reason to go out and buy a PlayStation 4 if you're a dedicated fan for those games. But when you do buy the other games on the market, the online competitive games that are really, really popular, you can still play with other people. That's the best case that rewards the hard work of the video game maker and still allows gamers the best of both worlds. Because that way, gamers will still have the gamers will still have the initiative to go out and buy that Sony product, but once they do, they know they're not restricted in this traditional sense. The problem is twofold. Basically what I just talked about, them not wanting to give advantages to their competitors, but also because allowing crossplay between multiple systems does cost a lot of money, and it's a pretty big investment. You gotta put a lot of resources, time and money into this implementation to get it up and running in the first place, and to make sure that it's consistently working long after it's been implemented. So it's not just the initial fixed investment, the fixed cost. There's a recurring, consistent, and progressive cost associated with doing this service. Is this a service that should be implemented as standard in 2018 because games have come so far? Probably, but there is still a cost associated with it, and it's probably one of the reasons why Sony is being like, can't do it. It's just a ridiculous situation, not just in the sense that they're blocking crossplay from future games that people are going to be craving for, but they're also blocking account-wide practices among different games, and we saw that with Fortnite as well. So it's not just a single proprietary game on the line here, it is account management as a whole. So they really don't want you, as a gamer, to interact with consoles except for the PlayStation 4 on any account for any game on any service. Can't really blame them, like I said, from a business sake, but just screams shady and greedy to me. And that's kind of where the real slime starts to surface. Like, crossplay is one thing. Like, you can almost excuse not wanting crossplay between multiple consoles, but blocking account services among systems for a particular account that people have spent and poured money into, like, that's the real crime here, I think. And we saw that with Fortnite, and that's the reason why they were like, oh, we might fix it maybe? Because the backlash was so huge. Like, people's money and time and resources are put into those accounts, so blocking that access is just, like, account-wide access, just a big no-no in my opinion. This is exactly why we have the terms of services. You know, that big long laundry list of texts you read or don't read when you buy a video game and you install it. In that fine print is the litigation and the regulation behind all this crossplay crap. It's basically them protecting themselves against this kind of practice because, well, they could put it in that fine print and you really can't argue about it. We have to make them change their minds because we are contractually obligated to accept whatever they put in their games per these agreements, and, well, it was in there. Crossplay, or the lack of crossplay for, their games. So what do? We continue to make videos like these, comment on videos like these, share these videos, and make sure that the message gets spread. And we put the pressure on the development houses as well to have them fight for these features because they are the first lines of contact with those game makers and those game publishers and those console makers. They have the communications, they have the contracts between them, they are in the same rooms during the meetings. They have the power to influence these decisions as well. The main issue here that I want to talk about before I end this video is the fact that there's a chance with Fallout 76 that there will be no crossplay between any system because of Sony's inability and refusal to integrate crossplay with their console. From what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, crossplay is integrated at the development level, so it has to be agreed upon before the game actually gets made. And that's the problem with so many games in the future. If you don't have the contract set before the game is made, then crossplay will never happen, ever. So the problem right now is that because Sony is like being the devil in the house right now and being like, no, we don't want crossplay, it may affect Nintendo's and Microsoft's ability to allow crossplay among their systems too, and that's the real crime. So keep speaking out because this just does not sit well with me and many other gamers out there, I'm sure. But all I know is that Sony really needs to rethink this strategy because they are on the shit list of so many gamers out there because we want the features that are important to us, and this is definitely one of them. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I'm going to wrap this video up. It's just a big bummer right now for the gaming industry. Fallout 76 is one of the most anticipated games of this year, and, well, it seems like it would be a very nice fit for this particular game. So drop that comment below, share the video if you can, and we'll see you in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness. Until then, you guys take care, and yeah, have a great day.